Hello and a warm welcome to the ImproveYourPool.com World 8-Ball Pool Championships, which comes once again from sunny Blackpool. We're down to the men's quarter-final stages and it is hotting up, and I'm delighted to be joined by the defending champion, Gareth Potts, although I don't think he's delighted to be here. Gareth, you want to be in this competition and you're not, unfortunately. What's happened?
Well, I lost my first match. I was seeded through to the last 32, and I just had one of those matches where everything seemed to go wrong. I didn't really settle down into the match, but that's taking nothing away from Murray Darwin. He played really well, and you know, fair play to him. He got through. And
do you think you'll be back again to try again next year?
Yeah, I'll definitely be back. You know, I've had a really good season this year. So yeah, I'll definitely be back. Obviously, very disappointed not to get through, but you know, I'll take the season that I've had, and yeah.
I think anybody who saw last year's final will be surprised that you're out so early, because you played so well last year under tough circumstances. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it was difficult for me last year, but yeah, I played really well. And you know, the thing is with pool, you know, your opponent doesn't always let you to play that well. You know, you don't always get an equal amount of chances, so you just have to take it on the chin. But yeah, I'll definitely be back. Well,
it gives us a unique insight anyway, because obviously we've got you here now, and you can tell us more about the players that are coming up in the quarterfinals than anybody else. Let's take a look at the lineup for the quarters. And of course we've got Ben Nunan, the Australian, against Mark Selby. That's our first matchup. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely be interesting. You got Ben Nunan, who's from Australia. He'll be new to this out there. He hasn't played on TV before. Obviously up against Mark Selby, who's an experienced snooker player. I think he's ranked number 28 in the world at snooker, so he's certainly going to be no stranger to the TV lighting.
Well, we'll be talking more about them in a moment, but let's take a look at the rest of the quarterfinals, and it really is a very strong lineup for the quarterfinals. Chris Melling also involved, obviously. Mick Hill, 3 against 8, that'll be interesting. Carl Morris, former champion, of course, up against Tom Ford, and Jason Twist, a 2-time winner, up against Darren Appleton, and that should be a cracker, I would have thought. Are you looking forward to that last one of all of them?
Yeah, definitely. The last one is a big match, but also so is the Mick Hill Chris Melling match. You know, that could quite easily be the final. You know, the two top players, they've won more or less everything in the game there is to win. So yeah, there's obviously some great lineups to come.
Okay, let's focus on our first matchup. Ben Nunan, obviously the Australian, who has got a lot of experience. You tell us a little bit about his run too. He's unseeded, his run to the quarters.
Yeah, well, as you can see there, it looks quite comfortable. He beat Pat Altus in the last 16, who is no stranger to being out here on the TV at the World Championships, but other than that, obviously it looks quite comfortable for him.
And obviously beating Rob McKenna of Wales 8-1, a big victory that one in the last 64 as well. But let's talk about his opponent. Now, Mark Selby, unseeded as well, but got a great pedigree from snooker, of course.
Yeah, like I say, I think he's number 28 in the world at snooker. He's certainly not going to be fazed by the TV, where I think Ben Nunan possibly could be. But it'd be interesting to see how this match goes, because I think you're not going to see many pots missed by either player in this match, because they're both really good cueists. So I fully expect it to be a good game.
Thanks, Gareth. Well, as you can see, the atmosphere building outside, and it is quite different than snooker and 9-ball pool, the atmosphere here in the 8-ball World Championships. One man who knows all about it, Jim Weish, he tells us what it's like to be in the cauldron of 8-ball pool.
In a packed and noisy pool arena, as always, concentration, the key to success.
Interesting words there from Jim Weish, who we'll be hearing from in a moment. Finally, Gareth, obviously defending champion, who do you think is going to take your title?
Well, I certainly won't be having a bet on it, put it that way, but I think the winner from the Chris Melling Mick Hill game has got to go favourite to win it.
OK, thanks, Gareth. Our commentators, of course, Jim Weish, Sean Baker and Mick Delahunty. But first of all, it's Scott and Dave.
Well, ladies and gents, it is now time to play some pool. So introducing your first player out, ladies and gents, this afternoon. You may have seen him in the last 16 of this year's World Snooker Championship, beating John Higgins in the first round. Please make him feel very welcome from Leicester, England, Mr. Mark Selby!
Under Australians #1, ladies and gents, be a big roar to Mr. Ben Nunan.
It's a battle of 22-year-olds to kick things off here in the ImproveYourPool.com World 8-Ball Championships. Great to have you with us, and what a match. This is the all-important leg to initiate the breaking sequence. Vital. The break, as we have said so often in the past, a formidable weapon, but only when it's working. Great to be joined by Sean Baker. And Sean, for those of you that don't know, he's the chairman of the English Pool Referees Association, so all the inside details, Sean, I'm going to be relying heavily on you. And
Mark Selby
Sean,
won the lag.
great to have you with us, and as I said, an enticing match here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jim. And as we see here, Mark Selby's won the lag. He's breaking off in the first frame. It's like he's made a red ball. So he's taking the first, he's taking the initiative in the match straight away. Made that all-important ball on the break, as you say, so important, Jim.
And vital to establish a little confidence. Obviously, both players going to be fighting the nerves, as you would expect, starting things off. Quarterfinals, the biggest pool event in the world.
Got to admit, I don't think you'll see too many nerves from Mark Selby here. He's used to being out in the TV arena, and he's elected to take the reds. And
red ball's in play.
Don't look, he's got too many difficulties. A little cluster there on the left-hand side, just below the left-hand middle pocket, but he's obviously confident. You can probably see a finish.
Well, he's certainly got some maneuvering to do. And for those of you that may be joining us for the first time, you're going to see that spotted cue ball in play here. And that a little foreign to most of these players. They had to adapt their games. In fact, I spoke to a few of them and they said it was a couple grams heavier, so that is going to make cueing a little bit more of a premium. And certainly few would disagree that this man, coming from a snooker background, would have an edge in cueing.
Yeah, certainly on the bigger table, Jim. He'll be used to all that room out there. Talking to him in the practice room beforehand, and he said he thought it was great, all the extra room that he'd be playing on in the TV arena. He said it's just important that I make a ball on the break, as he has done in this first frame. And I think he was quite confident that if he made a ball, he wouldn't be letting his opponent to the table. He's just studying this little cluster here. So he's just trying to make up his mind which way he's going to take this. He's looking to play the plant here. And I think that red that's tucked to the side of that yellow ball, very close together, may go in the middle left-hand corner, middle left pocket.
Yeah, but position to that 8 ball though, Sean. Tall order. Well, he's tried to develop it. The red must pass to the bottom right. It looks like, certainly from our overhead perspective, that it may just pass.
I say it's a very thin cut, and he's been maybe a loose control a little bit on the cue ball here.
Oh, what a shot! He is so unlucky. Took the cue ball off 2 cushions, tried to develop the 8, and that really couldn't have worked out any worse for him. Thin clip on this 8 to open accounts. And if you didn't know that this man could play the game, you know it now. 1-0 to Mark Selby, and what a break and finish that was. Wow.
Well, that's exactly what he wanted, Jim, to get out there. And as you say, break and finish. It puts all the pressure now on Ben Nunan. Very early in the game, but Ben's not had his hand on the table yet, obviously. So the pressure's going to be on his break here. And there you see Ben. He didn't look too perturbed yet. A little smile on his face, just having a little look round, enjoying himself out there in the arena. I'm sure that butterflies must be churning his stomach up at the moment.
Well, I guarantee he will have heard the buzz around the venue, certainly, and Mark Selby's credentials speak for themselves. But those credentials, as we've already acknowledged, come from a snooker background. Ben has to feel...
Second frame, Ben Nunan's break.
Certainly now that he's got to try and hold serve. It's a 1-0 lead to Mark Selby that welcomes Ben Nunan to the table. This young 22-year-old talented Australian in the quarterfinals of the World Championship. And who would know him any better than the former captain, multi-time captain of the Australian team? And welcome to the commentary box, Mick. What can you tell us about Ben?
Yeah, well, thanks for that introduction, Jim. Benny, geez, he seems like he's been around forever. He's only 22, but he's around the same age as my son, who's been playing a bit of 8-ball over the years.
Yellow ball's nominated.
They've played together. I think I've known him for 12 years already. You know, when he was playing under 12s junior, and he's won title after title in Australia. Great player.
Yellow ball's in play.
Doesn't miss much when he's going. He'll be a bit nervy out there right now, I'd say.
Well, I think it's also safe to say, from what we've seen from Selby, a little added pressure on the shoulders of young Ben. But probably safe to say as well, you're not going to see many safety exchanges in this match.
He just played a little bit of a loose shot there, left himself tucked up against that red. He's going to, he's got the pot into the left-hand middle pocket, which is fine, but it's very awkward queuing and getting position. Is that going to be a foul? It is.
He miscued.
2 visits.
He miscued, bridging over that red, as you spotted, Sean. And he is suffering right now.
And for viewers who've maybe not seen this game before, in this game, to play a legal shot, you must hit your own ball, and then a ball must reach a rail or must be pocketed. And that's what didn't happen there.
Great chance for Mark now to try and capitalize on that unforced error. Wouldn't have expected it.
I think he'd have been sat in his chair there expecting to see Ben Nunan clear those yellows, because they were all spread very nicely. But I don't think Mark's got too much difficulty. He's got a slightly awkward red on the left-hand middle pocket, left-hand side of the table, but he's got 2 visits, so he can use one of those visits if necessary to develop that ball. He's looking at doubling that. He's done that, so he's still kept those 2 visits in hand if he needs them. But looking at this table now, I don't expect him to need those 2 visits, Jim.
Now, how adversely this will affect Ben, only time will tell, Mick, but I've noticed a lot of Australian supporters in the crowd won't be too happy with this start.
Well, I can't say I'm terribly impressed with it myself, actually, but I think Benny's he's suffering a few of those, which is fair enough. But yeah, if Mark dishes next game as well, Benny's certainly going to be under pressure when he does come back to the table next, that's for sure.
Yeah, this could be reminiscent of a game a couple of years ago. I think 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was Jason Twist played Tony Vojovic, the Australian lad, and his nerves got to him, and he hardly got his hand on the table in the whole game. I think he lost something like 8-2.
Yeah, I've known Benny a long time. I don't think the nerves will get to him. I think he's early nerve, without doubt, but I believe he'll come back. He's pretty good at it.
Into the center. Well, no, he's using his second visit. Wise choice. Taking no prisoners. And it's 2-0 to Mark Selby. And it'll be down to Ben Nunan to try and reply. But Selby with the first break of serve here, enjoying a 2-0 lead.
Third frame. Mark Selby to break, leading 2 frames to 0.
And Nunan hoping for an opportunity in this third frame. Mark Selby into the comfort zone, 2-0 in front, breaking in frame number 3.
And he's made a red there into the middle, right-hand middle pocket. I think it was the front red. And I did see Mark again practicing his break early on in the practice on the practice table.
Now, Sean,
he was doing that.
You were saying too that he was having a little more difficulty with the larger surface, the 4x8 foot surface here.
Yeah, he did say that it did seem to be more difficult on the bigger table to pot a ball on the break.
Yellow
if he makes a ball, as I say, as he's done here, I can't see him missing again here, Jim. I think he'll be sat in his chair again in a few seconds' time, being 3-0 up.
He took out John Higgins 10-5 in the opening round of the World Snooker Championships. A testament to the ability this man possesses on a larger surface. But in my conversations with Mark, he's just as comfortable playing this game. He says there's more of these tables in his home club where he practices. And you can see with that dotted cue ball, the spin that each one of these top players applies to it.
Yeah, I think you'll certainly see that in our next match, which is the Chris Melling Mick Hill game. Chris tends to put a lot of spin on the ball, and you'll see that those red dots will be flying around the table.
He'll have that cue ball singing.
Well, as long as it's singing a winning tune for Chris, I think he'll be quite happy with that.
Well, he's certainly got one problem ball here as we look, and that's the one that he's eyeing up right now. Yellow just above the 8 ball.
I think it possibly goes into the left-hand middle, because he's just weighing up there where he wants to leave the cue ball, I think, off this next shot.
I was thinking, Sean, it might go back into the where he's playing the yellow now. It might actually be on in that pocket.
No, he's just played a clever little shot there, nudged the black out of the way.
Definitely on now.
Definitely.
But has made the 8 ball a little more awkward.
You see there that 8 ball doesn't now go into that bottom left-hand corner pocket, which it did.
Nice shot that he's played though. He's left himself the angle to just nudge that 8 out into the open here, just possibly even flick into the red and clear it. He is making this look a lot easier than it is, I promise you.
Like he's going right-hand middle with the black.
No chinks in this man's armor. 3-0 to Mark Selby. He has yet to put a foot wrong. It's a race to 9 for a place in the semifinals. Selby in total control. Wow, look at the man there. A picture of confidence, control, in complete control of his nerves.
And there's no emotion there either. You see, he's just sitting there. There's no looking around, laughing and joking with the crowd or anything like that. He's totally focused on this game. And you've got to be thinking, what's Ben Nunan thinking now? Mick, what do you think?
Well, I'm sure he's a bit nonplussed by it all. Mark's played beautifully so far, but Ben's got to remember he's only played one bad shot to be 3-love down. The other man's playing well. There's not much you can do about that. Just must take your opportunities when they come next time.
Which, in fairness,
Ben Nunan to break,
can be difficult to accept because, as you said, one bad shot.
Feel like you're playing terrible.
Frame 4. Nunan has to try and make inroads into that 3-0 deficit that Selby enjoys.
Well, he's made a red in the left-hand middle pocket again, and he was practicing that one. Again on the practice table before, and I was watching him break off, and he was doing it break after break, and he was making, I think it was the front ball was going in that middle left-hand pocket.
Well, you can see as we look from our overhead perspective, there's quite a log jam at the top end of the table, reds and yellows. Certainly those are going to have to be developed.
Looks like a reasonable opportunity though, Jim, just to play the one yellow onto the other and get an angle on the one in the middle to knock the 2 bad ones out with a bit of luck.
Yellow ball's nominated.
And that's what he needs at the moment. He needs a little bit of luck, Mick, because, as I say, 3-0 down. He needs to get into this game at this frame. He's nominated, as you say, nominated to take
Yellow
the
ball's in play.
And he's left himself an angle here.
He's got the angle I talked about. Now he just has to, I think you're kissing one yellow out. It's where the second one, the one closest to the cushion of these 3, where it lands is the real key here.
Yeah, the danger is he's going to be pushing it towards those 2 reds that are on the left-hand side of the table.
This is really the shot already in this frame, as far as Ben is concerned. How these yellows develop will tell the story.
30 seconds.
Well, I don't know whether he's pushed that red far enough to leave the other yellow on.
First look looks reasonable. They look both to be on in the corner pocket. Just a matter of getting close enough, well, getting good position on them.
And the yellow I'm referring to just above This red here, the nearest that arrow, a little awkward to try and show you, but that's the one that certainly Ben will be concerning himself with, and it looks available.
I was going to say, looking at the overhead shot there, Jim, that definitely goes into the bottom left-hand corner pocket. He's just got to get himself in the right position on that.
And how difficult this must be, knowing that he's 3-0 down, he's done precious little wrong, and he knows that he's got to try and he's got to fire something back at Mark.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about that. Mick made that point earlier then, that Ben's done nothing wrong. He's played one poor shot in 3 frames. But unfortunately in this game you cannot afford to pay more than 1 or 2 poor shots in a whole match. If you play more than 1 or 2 more poor shots in a game, you will lose. It's as simple as that. And as we see, our studio guest Gareth Potts knows, you know, you're only going to play 1 or 2 loose ones, and you're sat in the studio instead of out there in the arena.
The hard part of this is as well, if he doesn't finish here and Mark happens to take the frame, then all of a sudden next game for Mark becomes, well, not easier, but certainly the pressure is not, you know, Ben needs to exert some pressure on Mark to have any chance in this match, and it has to happen now.
Well, I figure between 600 and 700 players started out this year's event. Selby has won 6 matches to this stage. Big things were expected of him, and he is not disappointed.
No, and he's not had an easy path to these quarterfinals. When we look at the first round draw, he played Darren Matthew from Scotland, who's a former 3-time junior world champion, who's now progressed to the senior ranks and is I think the number 1 ranked Scottish player. He defeated him 8-6. He then came up against Oli Bale, who's the current European champion. And then Oli was feeling really confident.
That's a great shot from Ben, under pressure.
Well, what looked to be difficult at the outset, Ben Nunan has converted. We always say it's the first and the last that are the toughest to win. And young Ben is over the first hurdle. 3-1 in favor of Mark Selby. Well, a much-needed victory there. Certainly, Mick, the Australian flags were flying there in the crowd.
That was a fantastic out from Ben. Really, like I said, he was under a lot of pressure and didn't make it easy for himself. But he played a great second last yellow to get on the one in the middle. And, well, now the onus is back on Mark to continue his lead. He's only got 1 break of serve.
Packed house.
5th frame, Mark Selby to break, leading 3 frames to 1.
So leading 3-1, snooker professional ranked 28th in the world, Mark Selby, and nothing down. An absolutely packed arena here at the Norbreck Castle in Blackpool, welcoming the World Championships. And a chance for Ben Nunan.
This is exactly what Ben wanted. He needed Mark Selby to come up dry on the break, and he's got his wish. But he's just studying the table here. You can see from the overhead shot, yellows are possibly the ball that he's going to go for. Again, got that one that's tucked up in against the red in the balk area of the table, but
30 seconds.
Surely it does go into the corner pocket where the cue ball is currently lying.
Nothing easy to get started here, and certainly position to the next yellow doesn't look easy either.
He's just got a bit of an angle on this, Jim, so he'll be all right. Yeah, as you see there, he's spun it through.
Brilliant.
And you see there again the
yellow balls in
the
play.
red dots on the cue ball, giving the idea of the spin there as it came off the side rail.
All depends on that yellow near the red. If it's on, then he's a real chance here.
Mick, you and I, and certainly Sean, we've been around since the outset of this particular event, and how the standard has improved over the years. The players are getting younger and better.
Yeah, I think, Jim, that they're certainly getting younger, and the ability to hold their nerves seems to be better these days, I think, rather than, you know, maybe the more professional attitudes, practicing more in the game, and but most of them very nice people. Benny's a lovely young man. I can't speak highly enough of him, and certainly he's put a lot of time in over the years. and he deserves any success he gets.
Yeah,
Mark seems great as well.
I think personally I've known Ben for the 6 years that he's been coming to these championships. He was a junior in 2000, and although he qualified for the senior team in 2001, he actually elected to still stay with the juniors, and he spent the last 4 years now as a senior, and he's developed into such a cracking player, and as you say, such a gentleman, and just an all-round nice guy, Mick, off the table.
Yeah, well, that's how I find him, Sean. He's a pretty nice guy, but like I said, he can play, and as I alluded to earlier, he was pretty nervous that first frame, you could tell, but he'll hold it together. He's not one that seems to let it get to him too much, so a bit of luck he can go out here and really make a contest. It'd be fantastic.
Well, as you say, if he can get out here and it'd be him to come to the table next breaking off, he could quite easily be breaking to make it 3 frames all.
Obviously that yellow near the red only goes to the top right rather than the top left. He's played for it right then, I think.
And he's really got to take it now. This is the big shot.
Without doubt, Jim.
And given the position of the reds, added pressure on this yellow. He's got to have this. But as you said, Sean, if he can get to 3-2, and with the break in the next, they're effectively back on serve.
He doesn't like it. He's going the other way, Jim.
He's going to have to hurry up as well. We've already heard the 30-second call from a timekeeper, and he's missed. I think it's that time call has just put a little bit of pressure on him. He's just rushed that shot a little bit maybe there, Mick.
Seemed to be that way, Sean. I think that, like we were talking about, that yellow and red up the top that are close together are causing the problem in this game. And that'll be Mark's problem here as well. He has to find a way of opening that red up.
And we have to assume that red would pass to the corner that we thought Ben was going to be playing the yellow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure on Mark's style. Certainly if this was Chris Mellon at the table, that red and the yellow wouldn't be posing any problem whatsoever, because Chris would be negotiating a path to split that red and yellow up. Now, whether that's what he's tried there, I don't know. But he's certainly moved that red now closer to that corner, top right corner pocket. I thought that might have been a ball he could have used. He could have tried to pot that into the top right and used the angle to split the red and the yellow up. Now, whether he's still got an angle there to come back across, I don't know.
Screw straight into it now. He looks like he's coming down the table. It's a hard one to tell. As you say, he's new on our circuit, and it's hard to judge the sort of shots he may play.
Well, better to get at the problem areas sooner rather than later while you've got options. So,
without doubt. Giving himself a bit of angle, a lot of left-hand side here. You'll see that those red dots move around. I think he's going to try and knock it out now, do you think?
I think he has to. Trying to clear that odd red, and he's flicked it.
It's a great shot.
Yeah, it's a fantastic shot. He's had a little bit of run there. It's what he needed, as you say. But it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
You expect him to go game, though, don't you, Sean? You do expect him to finish.
Oh, without a doubt, he's going to go for it here. I think you'd find, if you look at the table, he'd struggle to find a safety net.
I just think he's such a good player that when he gets balls out in the open like this, he's going to get them most times, you think.
Yeah, the problem, though, with such a thin cut on this red, that cue ball is going to have a lot of pace.
They try and get right down the bottom here, I think, in between the three of them. Off 2 cushions. Well, he's played you safety.
But is it a safety? I think he's left him on.
Strange shot.
You just see the table there. I say he's got that yellow, which is slightly awkward, but if he can play the one to the bottom left and leave himself an angle in the one to the top right to get across the table and behind that yellow and take it again into the top right.
He may have an angle to get straight up there now. Sure, he might just be able to screw straight off this yellow, straight up the cushion. Get on the bad one now, even. And he's played your shot. He's got a good angle.
In fairness, he's perfect. I mean, he wants to stun right in behind this to play the yellow to the same pocket as this second to last.
Yeah, he's just going to have to be a little bit careful that he doesn't stun straight into that red. and knock it in the pocket.
I don't think he'll. I think he'll just stun straight across to it rather than go from behind it. So he won't touch the red. And he got in the way, so I didn't see whether he came off the top cushion or off the side.
No, he did. He played your shot, Mick. He came back across the table off the side cushion.
Right.
Now he's got to find a way to get position on that black, because it certainly doesn't go left corner or left middle.
Well, he's having a real good look. And now he's checking to see possibly top left as we look from our perspective. This must not be clear cut, not yet.
30 seconds.
I think he'd be pretty happy to have an opportunity, Jim, actually.
Well, we have to assume the way that he's played that this 8 available to the bottom right corner. You're the referee, Sean. This looks dodgy.
He looks like he's playing it off the red, Sean.
Well, he'd be in trouble if he does, because I'm sure our referee out there is probably one of the most experienced TV referees we've got, is Melvin Harley.
I meant the red on the bottom cushion. He was actually lining it up to play it off this red on the bottom cushion. Just like that.
What a shot! A confidence booster, to say the very least. And Ben Nunan has won the last 2 to pull back to 3-2, and he does have the break in frame number 6. And what a turn of events we've seen here in Blackpool. It looked like Selby was going to run away with this one in the early stages. Well, someone forgot to tell young Ben Nunan that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a poor shot really by Mark Selby. I think he'd have been, obviously looking back now, he'd have been better off going for that red. As you said, it'd been very thin cut, but I didn't see a safety there. There wasn't really a safety there. He obviously thought Ben Nunan wasn't going to clear those, but Ben Nunan isn't Australian champion for anything, and we see there 2-time world champion Jason Twist
Ben
looking
Nunan
on.
to break, trailing 3 frames to 2.
Enjoying a much more comfortable scoreline. Ben Nunan cracks into them in frame number 6. Just trailing by the odd frame now at 3-2, and with a ball down,
spotted.
Every chance to get back to level pegging. Boy, at 22 years of age, he's showing all the experience and fortitude. Making his first appearance in the quarterfinals in this year's ImproveYourPool.com World 8-Ball Championships. Boy, take a picture there. You're going to be seeing a lot of this young man in the future.
Yeah, he's certainly a calm young man. He holds his nerve together very
30
well.
seconds.
Won our Australian
Yellow
singles
ball
title
dominated.
last November, and our national titles and national 8-ball titles in Perth, and just did it easily. Actually, he just blitzed the field.
Yellow balls in play.
He's now currently known as Ben Nunan AC, I believe, Mick. Australian champion.
That's it. Well, he's had a few junior titles to his name over the years, but that senior one's, yeah, that's the one to win. Some great players, we like to think, in our country, and Benny right now is certainly the pick of us.
Well, certainly to have become Australian champion, Mick, I know it's taken something special. So again, I've known quite a few of you guys come over the years, some fantastic players from Australia, and you've still got them. I mean, you've got younger players coming through now, the likes of Paul Clack. I don't quite know how Paul is, but again, he's one of your younger players, and he's a fantastic player as well.
Yeah, well, I think he came 3rd in the team averages this year, and he's certainly developed
Red
over the
balls in
last
play.
3 or 4 times he's been
Time
here.
out.
It's a bad miss by Jim. Jim, that was a bad miss by Ben.
Yeah, I missed too many of those. That's why I made my way to the commentary box, Mick.
I think he might have had a kick there. We see our referee Melvin Harley. He's just cleaned the cue ball for Mark Selby. So he's handed the initiative maybe back to Mark here.
Can be a cruel game, but I think Mark, feeling that he probably let one slip away in the preceding frame.
Well, I tell you what, that wasn't a particularly good shot from Mark Selby at all there. I wasn't sure he was trying to cannon into that red.
Well, he's offered his hand twice in apology to Ben Nunan. Didn't capitalize the first time he got lucky. Let's see if he will here.
It's actually probably got a bit unlucky that time, Jim. Would have liked to have been on one of those 2 reds up the top left-hand corner.
And the problem is he's got out of position there. I mean, this shouldn't be a difficult shot for somebody of Mark's ability, say with his snooker background.
Beautifully controlled cannon.
The one thing that poor shot did do, though, that he played where the cue ball went very close to the bottom right-hand corner pocket, did actually just flick that yellow out of the way. And I think now both the red and the black do go into that bottom right-hand corner pocket.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Well spotted, Sean. He's freed that 8-ball. And if nothing else, he's got an angle on this red to get up for the last 2, and that 8 readily available. You do have to expect Selby to clear up here.
30 seconds.
I just wonder whether Ben coming back at him has just unsettled Mark a little bit. You think he would have been feeling super confident at 3-0. But obviously, say Ben's got back into the match at 3-2, and he might just now be thinking, hang on a minute, this guy I could be in a little bit of trouble. So I'm just going to have to steady the ship here. He's played a nice shot there, negotiated round there. He should just be able to take his pick of where he comes down here for the black boys. You see he's playing a lot of bottom right-hand side, off the side rail for the black.
And as you'd expect, very comfortable over the cue ball. Steady stroke, little pause at the backswing before he delivers it straight through that spotted white. And he's reaffirmed his 2-frame lead here, back to 4-2, and it'll be Mark Selby to crack into them in frame 7. Well, he has to be feeling a lot better. 3-3 was staring him in the face to get to 4-2, and with the break in hand to come.
He's just looking a little bit more relaxed there as well now, Jim. He's paying a bit of attention to his ferrule and his tip, but he's had a little word with a couple of people in the crowd there. So he's just, for his sake, I hope he doesn't let his attention wander. But I say he's still having that little word there. And we see the audience, it's packed house, as you say, at the Norbreck Castle in Blackpool.
Well, I doubt you'd see him doing that in the snooker forum, but he isn't enjoying himself.
Yeah, I mean, you've said about him his snooker background. He is actually a county player as well within England.
7th frame. Mark Selby
It's
to
the
break.
7th frame that welcomes Mark to the table. 4-2 the lead he enjoys. And he'll be looking for a ball down on the break here. He failed the last time he broke.
It's like he's made a yellow.
Yellow ball spotted.
You see his eyes darting around the table, assessing the situation.
You see the break shot. Again, it was a yellow in the bottom right-hand corner.
And having a very sound tactical mind.
Red ball's nominated.
Reds, the ball's in play here. And in fairness, doesn't look to be a dodgy red on the table.
Red ball's in play.
I think really he could have taken either suit there. He was just looking for the easier start, and he felt that red was the easier start. The yellow that was on the top rail was a little bit more difficult to get position out, maybe, so he's elected for reds. But as I say, sometimes with these racks, Jim, when the players break, they're spread that evenly. It's just personal preference. You just have to be careful here. He's bridging over both the yellow and one that's near his cuff. I'm sure, say, our referee, Mel Harley, will be in there close.
Well,
Just an indication.
I'm not sure he thought that was going to drop.
I think he's put his hands out wide. He said these are big pockets, I think, Jim, because I think he expected to miss it.
Yeah, we've seen that before. The ball just seems to skid down the rail sometimes when it looks like his player's missed.
Especially when the cloth's new like this. It's brand new cloth, and they just tend to slide off the cloth a little bit. He's such a great player. You know, what seems to him to miss to normal human beings like the rest of us, we're missing by a lot further than he is.
Well, you're seeing a lot of consistency in his speed of play, his rhythm around the table. That usually equates to success when you're under pressure. If you can maintain that rhythm, that consistent rhythm, that means you're in control of your emotions.
And your ability to know what's going on out there as well. And yeah, he's in a good rhythm, isn't he? He's beautiful.
And how quick did he go through these? And just like that, Selby back 3 clear, 5-2 in the race to 9 in command.
No question about it, and an intriguing matchup between these two, and real cat and mouse stuff. Gareth Potts, the defending champion, watching it with me. You're impressed with the standard, aren't you?
Yeah, the standard of that was really high, and look, you know, this tournament was wide open before this match started, but now that's just thrown it even more open, because the other players in the tournament will now look at that and think, wow, you know, that was a good standard, and if Mark continues to play like that, he can definitely win this tournament.
Who of the two players do you think is playing better, do you think?
Well, without a doubt, Mark. You know, he seems to have settled down. Ben seemed a little bit edgy early on. All
right, well, let's go back to our commentators.
5-2 the deficit, and Ben Nunan sees nothing go down at his break. Frame 8.
Real trouble for Ben. No ball off the break.
With a capital T, Mick.
Yeah, it's exactly what I didn't want. Having seen Mark open up that 3-frame lead, he needed to make a ball then. You know, if Mark could find an out here, it doesn't look easy, but if he could find an out here, it's a 4-frame lead he'd have in this race to 9.
Now you heard our host, Jonathan, and his studio guest, Gareth Potts, the defending champion, talk about how well Selby is playing. What sort of a message is he sending? Because you know there are a bunch of the guys still in the quarterfinals who are in attendance watching this, notably Melling and Jason Twist we saw earlier. What are they thinking?
Well, if they see him go game every time he pots a ball off the break, and he's just, it's hard to break his serve. He's potting a ball off the break most times, and he's finishing the game straight away. It gives you a big chance of winning every time you play, doesn't it?
I don't know. I think they'll take a little bit of heart from the last couple of frames. Mark's just not cueing quite as well he was at the beginning of the match. He's played the shot there he's had to play. He's finished far too close to the yellow, and now he's got himself back in reasonable position. But what happens sometimes these matches, players play one shot out of position and then they get further and further out of position, and eventually they'll miss, and then they hand the initiative back to their opponent. So I think they won't be too perturbed. I mean, Chris Mellon doesn't care anyway.
Second.
Chris Mellon is only concerned about his own game. If he wins the lag, and if he makes a break on every time he breaks, he makes a ball, the game will be over. Chris will win that match, and that's his confidence. So I don't think he'll be too worried.
Yellow near the black seems to be on in the middle. Just screw back to the cushion and get on it now. That's where he's played it for.
Fantastic shot he's played there, Jim.
Yeah, this yellow looked to be very awkwardly placed. I believe this was the only pocket it was available to. And again, just like that, Mark Selby has matured the situation to one of a frame-winning opportunity.
Yeah, he was just double-checking the black that does go into that bottom left-hand corner pocket. Just assume it does. He's played a nice shot there.
And look at the spin on that cue ball.
He just run a little bit too far. He was leave himself a little bit of an angle to get back down the table. He's asked for the rest, and if anybody in this tournament should be good with the rest, it will be Mark.
Time running.
And that 8 looking to be available. So just trundle this into the pocket and keep the cue ball in the center of the table.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
You have to fear the worst now for young Ben Nunan. 6-2 the deficit would be if Mark gets this 8. And it's a long way back now, confirmed here in Blackpool. 6-2 to Mark Selby over Ben Nunan.
Ladies and gentlemen, be a 5-minute interval. 5 minutes, please. Ninth frame, Mark Selby to break, leading 6 frames to 2.
A very comfortable lead, 6-2 in the race to 9, best of 17 frames. Mark Selby sees that red and the other one drop.
Red ball's potted.
Look at this, the lay of the land for the man already 4 frames clear.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure he wanted that one to go, Jim, actually. I think he'd have quite been happy to see that sit over the pocket. Because if he did get any trouble, there was a couple of yellows that are near to that top right and corner pocket.
It's forced him to take the yellows, I think.
It has. Mick, we've just come off of a short break for the players, and you had a chance to have a quick word with young Ben. Not too happy.
Yeah, well, he feels like he hasn't done a huge amount wrong. He was upset with himself at the first frame, of course. But at 3-2, he felt that he got a very bad kick on a pot along the bottom cushion. The balls exploded and missed the pot. Mark went game, then proceeded to go game off 2 of his own breaks and 1 of Ben's without a ball. So he feels that he's 6-2 down without having done a huge amount wrong. So, but he also understands that's the game, and you know, Mark's taken his opportunities beautifully. So, but he still feels like if he gets a few opportunities, he's playing well enough.
I'm sorry, Mick, I don't think he's going to be getting an opportunity in this frame, though. It's looking very comfortable here again for Mark Selby. He's just got to play 1 or 2 half-decent positional shots, and I think he'll be sat back in his chair with a 5-frame lead.
Looks pretty ominous, that's for sure, Sean.
And again, can't help but allude to the fact that this man just maintains his steady pace, never seems to get flustered.
Because even though we did speak earlier, even though Mark, as you say, is a top snooker professional, he does actually play county pool as well, and he's currently top of his region's ranking, Region 3, which is a particularly strong region in England, with Staffordshire and Nottinghamshire in that region. He's placed for Leicestershire, of course, and he's currently sitting pretty at the top of the averages. So he's no mean 8-ball player as well. He's got plenty of practice at the 8-ball discipline.
Line this up into the center pocket and increases his lead just a little bit more, edging closer to the finish line. Mark Selby now 7-2 in front and just 2 away from a place in the semis. And a delighted Mark Selby, comfortable in his chair. And in stark contrast, Ben Nunan. His back's against the wall.
Yeah, and as you see here, the break-off shot again from Mark Selby. He's crashed in, so I think it read into them. That top right. You see he gets a cannon, and in it goes, and 1 bottom left and top right.
That was really the key shot in that frame.
10th frame.
That's how big the break
Ben
is.
Nunan to break, trailing 7 frames to 2.
Trailing 7-2, Ben Nunan has to try and make inroads. A little extra into that break. And I didn't hear anything drop.
No, it hasn't.
Open table.
An open table. That's confirmed by our referee Melvin Harley. I think he was looking at that yellow that's closest to his seat. That top left-hand corner pocket, you'll see. It rattles in the jaws and it stays out. You see it's there, and you'd have expected that to have gone, but it didn't. And as Mark's back at the table now.
Red balls in
take reds. And this is looking extremely ominous now for Ben Nunan. As you said, Mick, he's not really done a great deal wrong. He's played played 1 poor shot in the 2nd frame. He's had the kick in the 6th frame. And other than that, he's not done anything wrong.
But the other guy's done plenty right. That's the big thing here. Sean, Mark's played fantastically well.
The one thing I did notice about in the replay we saw of Ben's break, and it happened early on in the match as well, seems to be crashing the ball that hard. The cue ball is physically jumping in the air, probably 6-8 inches off the table. Now I think that's a little bit of lack of control on the break shot. It's not a control break, that.
Don't disagree with you, Sean.
Here's the big shot here coming. It's going to be a plant, red onto yellow, onto the red nearest the corner pocket. This was always going to be the question mark in this frame. And where the red that he plays onto the yellow finishes could well determine the outcome in this. It's one thing to get the red, but he's got to clear that yellow with the other.
Yeah, I think as long as it comes out, he's a bit undecided, but I think as long as it comes out somewhere, he'd be okay, because he'd be leaving himself on one of those balls in the middle of the table here on this shot. I'm pretty sure. But cue ball's close to the rails, make it a little bit more difficult for him. He's played a fantastic shot there.
Well, played it into the cushion, didn't he, Sean? Ensured the red coming out away from the yellow.
Maybe not quite the position he wanted. A very thin cut here. Well, he's not made it, but he's covered that pocket with that yellow there.
Yellow ball's in play.
So at least Ben's coming back to the table now, knowing that he's got to take an opportunity here. It's not going to be easy, I say, with that yellow close to that top right-hand corner pocket.
Certainly not easy, Sean, but at least he's got a shot. It's better than sitting in your chair.
And he has spent a lot of time in his chair. Such a tender age, 22 years, and to come out
30
under
seconds.
the television cameras and perform, it's a tall ask.
Difficult to see what he can do to remove that yellow away from that pocket as well, because of the doesn't seem to be there's no yellows close by to get behind it. It has to get right up the top near it and be able to play it over to the other side onto the yellow that's over that hole somehow, but he's got to play a good shot to get there somewhere along the line.
Yeah, he's just looking now. Has he got an angle to come off that side rail, as you say, try and get in sort of behind it and move it over to the other side of the table, but I don't think he has. I think he's going to have to be biding his time a little bit on that one.
And conventional wisdom would dictate that he get at that yellow sooner rather than later.
30 seconds.
Yeah, without a doubt. We see so often in these matches players get into trouble by leaving their bad ball right till the end. They put all their eggs in one basket, and unfortunately it doesn't work. He's got to get at that ball somehow in the next, I think, 1 or 2 shots.
Yes, there's no question the old 8-ball edit is that you get to the bad ball as quickly as possible before you put all the balls that you can use for position later.
And that won't do his confidence any good.
But he's just under pressure the whole way here, Jim, and Mark hasn't missed, of course, and every time Ben comes to the table at the moment he's under the whip.
That actually tried to go into the pocket there. It's only the pace that's kept that out. He had to hit it hard, but it's the pace. It's drifted in, gone round the lip, and come back out again.
Well, he's not a happy camper. Evidenced. He doesn't even want to go back to his chair. Feels like he spent enough time there already.
I was going to say that, Jim. He spent too much time in his chair in this match anyway.
30 seconds.
Mark's played an excellent shot there. He's cleared out the yellow out of the way, and he's now left this as a fairly simple out, and just leave himself 1 frame away from a place in the semi-final where he'll be meeting either Chris Mellin or Mick Hill.
And with his break to come, one would think at this stage the match will be over sooner rather than later.
I have to say I'm a big proponent of the alternating break format in any cue sport. But when you dig yourself a hole that confronts young Ben Nunan now, 8-2 down, with the alternating break format, it's hard to see a way back. 8-2 to Mark Selby.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for bad luck, poor old Ben Nunan wouldn't have any luck at all, would he? You've been watching this, and that shot particularly just then, that just sort of summed up everything that's gone on with him, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he hasn't really had many chances at all throughout this match, and the ones that he has had are not really nice ones, you know. The balls are a little bit tricky. He's always having to do something. He's never really had something, you know, to get him off the mark, get him back into this match. He's always been chasing. So yeah, I thought.
Yeah, it's terrible luck for then Ben Nunan, but, well, can he come back? It doesn't look like it, biting his nails at the moment. And we're back at the table, Mark Selby to break.
11th frame, Mark Selby to break, leading 8 frames
So for a
to
chance
2.
to break his way into the semi-finals, Selby 8-2 in front, and a ball down on the break.
Red ball's potted.
And a big chance.
Yeah, he's actually potted 2 red balls there, Jim. You see all those, there's quite a few balls clustered together in the ball area.
Red ball's in play.
And he's just confirming with Melvin that Melvin Harley, our referee, is going to take reds. And I think this game's over. Looking at those reds now, I don't think you'll see him take much time here.
I actually was looking at Mick and the nod of the head, Mick, from your countryman, and certainly a young player that you've got very high hopes for in the future. Well, his future in the 2006 ImproveYourPool.com World Championship may be coming to an abrupt end.
Yeah, well, we can talk about Ben and say that he's been a little bit unlucky here and there, but geez, Mark's played well, hasn't he, at the same time? He's going to be a real danger here in this tournament. There's no question of that. And, well, we're talking like it's over. He still has to do the work, but may have snookered himself here. Or is that side working?
A lot of spin applied to that cue ball there, and it didn't quite weave a path through to the red.
Well, it'd be premature if Ben happens to win a few frames in a row all of a sudden, but doesn't look like Mark's on this ball to pot it.
No, he definitely can't get through. He doesn't have a clear path to see this. And I mean, all he can really do is certainly keep it there, at least.
Yeah,
keep that yellow awkward.
Yeah, delicate little shot. I think he might. Is he coming off the bottom rail here? Oh no, he's tried something special. And has he got it? Has he fluked it? Oh.
Well, that would have been special.
Yellow ball's in play.
But this one we thought it was safe to go back in the water. Come on back to the table, Ben Nunan.
No, I think it's a little bit dangerous to see a replay of that. I think he's actually tried to double it back into the bottom right hand corner pocket. Nearly fluked it into the top left. It's dangerous there because he looks like he's tried something really extravagant there. And perhaps he felt that was his only option, Jim, that he couldn't see a safety. You know, early on in the match he tried to play a safety and Ben went out from it, so he probably felt he didn't have any choice there.
Well, such is the comfort zone of an 8-2 lead with an alternating break format.
I was about to say the same, Jim. At 8-2, he's certainly entitled to have a bit of a dip at the ball, and you know, he may have played safe, but the odds are Ben would have cleaned them up from there anyway. So he's had a go at them, which is fair enough.
But the dreaded loser's stroke. Beware the loser's stroke. No pressure on Ben Nunan now. Very few could expect him to pull this one out. And with each frame that he can slot on his side of the score sheet, well, the pressure may mount on Mark Selby.
Yeah, if he takes these balls out, it'd be him to break next. And if he could come up with a ball on the break and run them out, he would then be back to 8-4. And he'd be back in the game, because Mark's only got to come up dry, and it's quite easily happen. Again, Ben comes to the table and finishes. It's not over.
30
well, this
seconds.
can't be straightforward, and you can see he's just off angle on this yellow to be able to drop nicely onto the last one.
I think he's trying to run through here. You might see quite a bit of spin on that ball here. No, it's not.
He's just playing it up the other end. He's just playing it up the other end, I think, Sean, which is. May play the snooker even. Not likely. Ben sort of played will have a go at them. It's just a beautiful shot.
Had to have it. You don't back your way into world titles, and Ben Nunan knows it. The 8 deposited, and he pulls one back. A long way back, though, for Nunan. 8-3, but it'll be Nunan to break in frame 12. Well, Ben Nunan at least knows that he's going to be spending a little more time on the main match table here, if nothing else.
I'd just be wondering if he might just try and change his break-off shot on this next frame, Jim, because it's not worked for him so far. As I say, he seems to be losing that cue ball. Certainly, it's jumping quite viciously off the table. You see the shot here from Mark Selby.
Yeah, the wild flail at a very low percentage double. And so very nearly fluked this into the corner pocket. But this was a great yellow from Nunan.
Yeah.
Under a lot of pressure.
Ben Nunan to break.
I think it's been good for Ben, whatever the result of this match is. You know, he'll be back a number of times, I have no doubt.
Scoreline of 8-3 in favor of Selby. And a much better break from Ben Nunan.
Red and yellow balls potted.
And no time like the present now, young Ben. Stand up and be counted.
Let me see, he's made a red and a yellow ball in the break. The bottom left and right and corner pockets. So he's going to have a choice. Whatever he takes here, he'll be on. And just looking at the lie, he's taking his time. He's decided he's going to take reds. He just finds there the easiest suit. I think there's certainly one yellow on the left-hand side where it's slightly awkward. And he's almost missed that. That's incredible.
You know, either way, Mick, just referring again to Ben and his pool future back in Australia, this experience will put him in good stead, win or lose.
Without doubt, Jim. The pressure of just about having to go to finish the game every time you visit the table is not always something we have to do in Australia. You know, you can miss one or two occasionally and still be okay, but against these great players, you must go game every time you walk to the table, and it's a great experience for Ben.
Yeah, I think that's one thing about Australian sportsmen. No matter what sport, you never ever see them give up. We saw that last summer in the Ashes series in the cricket. The Australians, they were under the cosh for a lot of the time, and they didn't let England have it all their own way. But fortunately, we came home. Well, you left without the trophy, Mick.
Yeah, I was waiting for this one, Sean, actually, but well, I actually think you outplayed us all over the park. Different sport, of course, but we'll certainly be trying very hard to get those things back off you very shortly. Those little ashes.
I think they're safely locked up at Lord's. I don't think they'll be going anywhere, Mick.
Well, I'd like Ben to come back right now.
Okay, put those gloves down now, guys. He's made a bit of a mess of this. Well, I mean, have a look at it.
Second.
This red is on, but it's taking the cue ball away from the other reds. Is he going to try and flick into the yellow and hold position?
I think he's on this bottom red near the black. He'll just go back up for the one in the middle.
Yeah, it's a fairly straightforward out the majority of the time here for Ben Nunan. Now this, so there's no real great pressure on him. He knows that his opponent's only one frame away from replacing the semis, so he's just going to go out and try and enjoy himself now. Hopefully get a bit more table time. There's even a little smile on his face there as he got down for that. So he's not showing any pressure now.
Pretty good shot from Nunan there to get to 8-4. The scoreline starting to look a lot more respectable for the second time in the match. Nunan slots 2 in a row on his side. 8-4 to Mark Selby.
Obviously a bug on his shoulder.
You're not quite sure what's going on there. He's Melvin Harley, our referee, is in close attendance at something.
Well, Ben Nunan knows what he's got to do. There it is. It looks like a B. Oh, yeah. Oh no! Say it ain't so.
Well, that'll be the phone calls from the RSPCA now later, Jim.
Yeah, it is now. If it wasn't before.
I think Mark's a bit annoyed he hasn't squashed Ben by now, actually.
Well, he's going to have every chance with the break at hand. 8-4. And will frame 13 be lucky? Or will it keep Nunan still in with a chance?
To break, leading 8 frames to 4.
Here we go. Lucky frame 13. And a ball down off the break for Selby. So once again, a glimpse at the finish line.
And I'll tell you what, if that red goes into the bottom left-hand corner pocket, reds look excellent here for him. He had a little shake of his head there, so perhaps he's not convinced, but we see the break-off shot again here. Nice and controlled, and you see that red disappearing into the middle pocket.
Yeah, I think very noticeable. He's taken a lot of speed, a lot of pace off his break. At the start of this match, he was hammering him.
Well, the thing is, on the practice table, it's different conditions on the practice table to being out there under the TV lights. Table plays a lot quicker than it does in the practice room, and he's obviously been practicing his break in there and really having to hammer them to make a ball. And he's decided now, obviously, I don't need to hit them that hard. I'm going to take some off the break shot, and it's worked successfully for him here. And he obviously thinks that red goes into the bottom left. So I say it's a fairly straightforward out here for him now.
And for all you technical purists at home, just watch the way this man cues. Let cue straight through that white ball on its intended path. No wavering whatsoever. A dart-like action. And that almost always equates to success. 3 shots away from a place in the semifinals. And to book a date with either Mick Hill or Chris Melling. Both former world title holders. And this man's dream still on course. It was a game fight from Ben Nunan from Australia, but in the end, he just could not overcome the power exhibited by Mark Selby, number 28 in the world of snooker, looking to become number 1 in the world of 8-ball pool. Home and dry and through to the semifinals, Selby a 9-4 victor.
Case of floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. Mark Selby, quite literally there, brilliant stuff by him, and he finished off the game in style. A little bit of a comeback from Ben, but a little bit too late really. By then the damage was done.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, Ben, he didn't really have the best of the balls. He didn't really get his chances. Mark put him under pressure early on, but that certainly sends out a message to the rest of the people in this tournament, you know, that Mark Selby plays like that, he's really going to take some beating.
A lot of our fans out there feeling sorry for you not making it through the finals, but you've got to have a bit of a moment for Ben there, because he really didn't play that badly.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, he didn't play that badly. He didn't have the best set of balls, but, you know, Mark put him under pressure early on, and then from then on, you know, it's only going to get harder for him.
What impressed me most about Mark's play was how cool he was under pressure. You know, there were some distractions out there, and Ben did come back a little bit, but he just never showed any signs of emotion, just carried on, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the damage was done 6-2 at the interval, and then, you know, he come back and he won the next frame, and, you know, he just was relentless, really, kept him under the pressure, and I think it was just damage limitation in the end. You know, it was inevitable what was going to happen, and especially when he was breaking like he was, you know, he was hitting the balls really hard, he was making a ball off most of his breaks, and, you know, when he pots like he did there, like I say, he's really going to take some beating.
Thanks, Gareth. Well, let's just confirm that score then. Mark Selby going through the first quarter-finalist there, 9-4, an emphatic victory over Ben Nunan. And, of course, still to come, Chris Melling up against Mick Hill, Carl Morris against Tom Ford, and Jason Twist up against Darren Appleton. So a long way to go in this one in the men's competition. Just looking at that quarter-final lineup, anyone in particular you want to look forward to seeing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great lineup this year. I mean, you've obviously got Chris Melling, a former twice world champion, Mick Hill, a former world champion to come. I mean, I think that's the one I'm looking forward to the most, because, like I said, I think the winner of that match on paper has to go down as favourite for the tournament. Who the winner of that match is, I'm not sure, but like I say, they'll all be watching that match and thinking, well, you know, I've got to play well to win this tournament now.
All right, thanks, Gareth. Well, without a doubt, the first man through, Mark Selby, is King B. And that's it from Blackpool. We'll be back with more 8-ball pool next time out. Bye-bye.